Welcome to AM Best Audio.
AI is poised to transform asset management in ways that could redefine efficiency, profitability, and competitive advantage. According to a recent McKinsey article entitled How AI Could Reshape the Economics of the Asset Management Industry, AI has the potential to reduce costs by 25 to 40%. But unlocking that value requires more than incremental tech upgrades. It demands a strategic shift from legacy system maintenance to AI-driven transformation. As firms experiment with generative AI in research, compliance, and operations, the race is on to see which players will embrace the change and which may be left behind. I'm Lori Tortis for AM Best Audio. Joining us now to discuss that and other trends in the market are the two lead authors of the article. Raj Bector is a senior partner who leads McKinsey's North American wealth and asset management and insurance digital work. And Piyush Sharma is a partner who co-leads McKinsey's global wealth, asset management, and asset owner AI and technology practice. Raj and Piyush, welcome. It's such a pleasure to speak with you both. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lori. Wonderful to be here.
Nori, thank you for inviting us.
AI has generated a lot of excitement across industries, but some wonder if it's more hype than reality. Raj, how likely is AI to truly transform asset management rather than just being another tech trend?
I think a place to start before we jump into hype versus reality, I think it's important to understand sort of where we've come from. Um, Technology over the last 2 to 3 decades has certainly impacted the way we live and the way we work. The impact has been profound in certain respects, and less so in other respects. The same is held true within the asset management industry. The impact has been uneven. The industry technology costs have grown close to 9% CAGR. The growth in this cost has gone to technology investments like robotic process automation, as an example. And one could argue that the promised value of RPA hasn't been as revolutionary. On the other hand, technology investments have also gone into cloud technology. And you can see the payoff in the form of business agility and scalability really coming to life as a result of investments in cloud technology. With this backdrop, the here and now is AI. There's undoubtedly lots of hype around this new technology. However, our research and early implementation of AI technology actually points to a profound and revolutionary impact on our industry. I'll give you examples. One example is using AI agents to proactively resolve trade breaks before they become a downstream problem in the workflow. Now, this is important because it creates capacity for people to do other value-added work, as well as reduce the financial impact that typically occurs when trades break downstream. This is just one small example. But when you start to put examples like this together into what we call domains, you start to see the transformative impact that AI can have on the industry at large. I recently had a client conversation where they basically are reimagining the research function within their asset management business. And this is transforming the research function where insights are generated autonomously, with the very last step being the overlay of human intuition. Now, this is radically different than how research works today without AI. It's latent with human bias throughout the process. So if you start to take this human bias out of the research process, leveraging AI, but saving the human intuition for the back end of the research process, you could start to fundamentally see how research is going to change over time. So, is there a bit of hype with AI? Of course there is, but at the same time, the potential to deliver that transformative impact is far greater.
So, Raj, which areas of asset management stand to gain the most from AI adoption?
Based on our research, we think we think AI will impact all three offices: the front office, middle office, as well as the back office. Today, again, based on our research, if we look at what's happening today in the marketplace, we believe the middle and the back offices are ripe to gain the most from AI adoption. Conservatively, the cost curve can shift by 30 to 40%, if not greater, as AI changes the role of humans from what we call doers today to reviewers tomorrow. So I'll give you an example. For example, deploying AI agents, again, I'll use the trade flow example that I used previously. Deploying AI agents across the trade flow and into the fund accounting process could eliminate significant manual tasks and reorient people who are doing those checks today to doing more meaningful tasks. I'll make one other point. The ecosystem around our industry, which includes fund administrators, data providers, custodians, they all stand to gain from AI adoption. So again, I'll give you another example. For example, within the fund administration space, creating agents to support accountants to make them more productive and knowledgeable on accounting rules has tremendous potential. It is not easy to find accounting talent globally. So if AI can shift accountants' role from doers to basically checking what the agents will deliver, the impact, once again, is transformative.
For insurers and asset managers, Raj, how can they shift from maintaining legacy systems to AI driven transformation?
I will give you two actions that institutions can take to shift from maintaining legacy systems and move their institutions towards AI-driven transformation. If you look at the landscape today, most institutions spend 80% of their IT budget on what we call keeping the lights on. And 20% of that IT budget goes towards discretionary spend. Institutions need to fundamentally flip the script on this, or at least get it to a point where it's a 50-50 spend ratio across keeping the lights on and discretionary spend on technology. It's a tall order for sure. But one way to do this is to actually apply AI to the biggest cost buckets that we have in most institutions, which is maintaining legacy platforms and legacy systems. If we use AI to modernize these systems, and today it's possible such that you can actually reduce the labor and the effort required by 50% if you use AI to transform legacy platforms to modern platforms, and then you sunset those platforms, that creates room from the 80% keeping the lights on budget towards the 20% discretionary spend to actually drive AI transformation for an institution, right? That's point one. Point two is placing the right bets with AI. Use cases are great, and we see a lot of institutions piloting use cases and taking a use case approach. That's all fine and great. But attacking a particular domain, and what we mean by a domain is a collection of use cases within a substantial function, we believe that changes the game for institutions, and it starts to deliver outsized value, which can become a bit of a reinforcing opportunity for these institutions moving forward. So just to summarize, two actions. One is we got to flip the script on the 80 to 20% IT spend versus discretionary spend, or keeping the lights on versus discretionary spend. We've got to get closer to 50-50, if not completely flipping that ratio. Point one. Point two is we've got to place the right bets with AI. Placing them on particular use cases is fine, but insufficient to actually transform an institution, right? You've got to aggregate these use cases and go after a particular domain.
Customize your data experience. BestLink now offers an interactive company dashboard that provides company-level intelligence in a fast, user-friendly interface featuring interactive tables, charts, and Sparkline performance histories. Customize the dashboard tiles to prioritize the insurer ratings, data, and analytics that best support your workflow. AM Best. Our insight, your advantage.
As Raj shared earlier, integrating AI into operations means rethinking how people and technology work together. Piyush, what challenges do firms face in embedding AI alongside human roles effectively?
That's a great question. I suppose one of the patterns that Laurie, that we've seen, at least in the past versions of technology, is technology orgs trying to deploy technology for a whole variety of users with a varying level of adoption, which is where the full impact of technology doesn't always necessarily flows through. Um, AI in asset management can sound like yet another buzzword, but this isn't a typical tech upgrade. AI is changing how humans and technology work together, how decisions are made, how teams are structured, and even how clients are served. Um, Now, this is about exactly the point you said, and what Raj was referring to is it's a rewiring of the organization. That's the full potential value out there. Now, it does require, if you have to integrate the AI into operations, you have to think in terms of changing roles and decision rights. So, for example, this is no longer about task ownership. If you look at any of the processes that exist in asset management, and they are typically in the operations world organized around doing tasks linearly. However, with AI redefinition, the role changes to outcome ownership. So, for example, AI agents will draft the research, do individual steps, but somebody has to review it, and that human's role must shift to the supervising, validating, improving AI output rather than perform individual steps themselves. That's a humongous change. Now, if you extend that argument further, what we're talking about is human agent teaming. So, clear pathways for determining if the outputs that are being produced by every process is clearing the bar for sufficiency. There is clear accountability that is retained that used to exist in when humans were clearly defining and running the every step of the journey. So those two aspects, just purely in terms of roles and decision rights, needs to be rethought of. It requires quite a lot of reskilling, we believe. Um, then the other aspect around this is basically the cultural adoption and trust. If you have to basically go to the point of AI realizing the value for asset management for all the good reasons that you saw in the article, you have to get away from this perception of threat to enhancement of value for those individual roles. So, example, a portfolio manager, the way they currently do the work, or analysts who um, basically apply judgment to run the different aspects of the operational processes, whether it's investor onboarding or it is about basically doing reconciliation of different outputs. That same role now is able to basically get a lot more done by applying discretion at a higher order. Now, obviously, there's a huge role that the leadership needs to play in terms of role modeling around this. So those are the few aspects that I would say definitely are needed for integrating the AI into operations and reimagining people and technology, um, along with the good old usual stuff of making sure that the data quality is maintained, the governance is done appropriately, the regulatory and fiduciary oversights are extended to be able to basically deal with this new way of working, and talent gaps are addressed.
Capturing AI's potential requires not just pilots, but scale. Piyush, what strategies should firms pursue to unlock the full value of AI across operations and investment processes?
This is a great question as well. In fact, actually, this goes to the heart of getting to one of the things that Raj mentioned in the beginning was the technology itself is transformative, and the hype part is coming from all the machinery that you're seeing around it. But the real threat is execution gap that we see. Now, if this thing is about reimagining the different workflows, unless you take a substantial rethink of the way the work was done, what we have referred to as a zero-based approach, reimagining of the workflows, whether it's about investment research or onboarding or compliance, you only get to incremental automation as opposed to a step function shift in productivity, for example. The second part that we found to get to the full value is basically tying the AI program to measurable outcomes. And those outcomes are the traditional ones, right? Cost over AUM targets or revenue growth or client experience metrics that the organizations themselves have been using for quite some time. But tying the deployment of AI to those metrics and realization of it in a time bound fashion is a source of value. Beyond this, I would say getting away from the just the pilot purgatory is clearly important. It is about scalable solution deployments in a very fast pace and getting it adopted, establishing the unified data in a way so that there's a single source of truth. The problem that has persisted in technology within asset management for sure and many other industries requires some degree of solving. And then the whole aspect of doing it in a way so that next time when you do it in another domain, you're smarter, which is what we call as the whole concept of reusable recipes. Making sure that the components of solution that you're building in one area has some part of it that carries over to the subsequent part so that you're able to transform the entire business and not just take a limited impact approach, which usually pilots denote. These would be the few factors that I would think are quite central to it. One more thing, actually, which is quite usually under-addressed part of some of these deployments is this whole notion of incentives within the organization. We believe that linking promotions and bonuses and basically whatever way people determine their success in these institutions to business outcomes, AI driven business outcomes, like whether it's efficiency gains or revenue lift, is a huge force multiplier and helps focus the organization towards the outcome that they want to get out of these programs.
Piyush and Raj, I'm going to ask you to take out your crystal ball for a moment, if I may. And Piyush, we'll kick off the question with you. Looking forward, how do you see AI reshaping the asset management and insurance industries over the next 5 to 10 years?
This is the question that we've that triggered the whole research on our part. So I'm happy to basically take a first shot, and Raj, please add. We think around 30 years ago, the biggest lever that changed the economic profile of asset managers and broader financial services institutions came along, and we called it outsourcing, offshoring. We think this is potentially in terms of the impact this can drive in terms of reshaping the economics of an institution. This is bigger than that. However, the path to that is complex. If it is thought of as a pure play tech deployment, This is not a technology challenge as much as a leadership challenge. So I fundamentally believe that if the organizations have to realize the full value that this technology can deploy, there are some necessary tenets. Some of them we discussed today that are important to actually deploy, as opposed to treating it as a science experiment.
Yeah, if I can give you my perspective here, and I think this holds true for not just asset management and insurance, but I think by and large a lot of industries. If I were to start a business in asset management and insurance, and again any other industry, um, I would optimize the use of AI such that um, um, I could automate everything front to back. So I would have bunch of agents doing research. If I'm an asset manager, I'd have a bunch of agents trying to do asset allocation and debating amongst themselves whether the asset allocation seems right based on real-time market conditions and expected market conditions. I would have agents traversing the trade flow to make sure nothing's broken. And if something is broken, they would proactively fix it. And then I would have agents going back into the custodian to make sure our assets are custodied appropriately based on particular trades. Um, I have a belief that we can deploy AI across the entire value chain of an asset manager and an insurer, such that we would have a fully automated business, and then the humans would essentially be left to do all of the reviewing, validation, and the checks to make sure the agents are doing their job appropriately, right? So essentially become the managers of these agents that are doing the work, right? Like what I mentioned before, from doers to reviewers. If you do that, the cost profile of the industry completely changes. The margins of the business completely change. Our ability to navigate the ups and downs of industry cycles changes. And now it does present a bit of a conundrum with respect to regulatory challenges. But purely, if we just look at it from a technology standpoint, I think it changes the game for our industry as well as other industries.
I'll add one specific dimension also. I don't think everyone will make that leap, Laurie. You were mentioning 5 to 10 years. If this were only a technology and a human adoption challenge, this is more like a 2 year, 3 year window approach. And some institutions are better placed to basically make that kind of a leap. The real interesting thing that will have play out is once some do and others don't, what kind of a competitive dynamics it basically unleashes within the industry, given all the benefits that Raj just laid out. And that is what I think should be on the top of mind of everyone who's looking at this.
Raj and Piyush, this has been so fascinating, so insightful. It's been a pleasure, and I'd like to thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having us over.
Lori, thank you.
That was Raj Bector, a senior partner who leads McKinsey's North American Wealth and Asset Management and Insurance Digital Work, and Piyush Sharma, a partner who co-leads McKinsey's Global Wealth, Asset Management, and Asset Owner AI and Technology practice. For AM Best Audio, I'm Lori Chortis.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.